In today's show, the Blazers go into Cleveland and upend the Cavs thanks to a big boost from the bench. 46 points from the reserves. Hello, Caleb Love. Hello, Shaedon Sharpe. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's program, we're talking about just a straight-up good win over the Cleveland Cavaliers. Blazers win 122-110 in Cleveland on the second night of a back-to-back. International travel be damned. Injuries be damned. The Blazers just go in there, get a great night from their bench, and beat the Cavs. A solid, if not spectacular, Cavs team of the last couple seasons where they've been spectacular during the regular season. The Blazers handle them. They never truly threatened in the fourth quarter. We'll get into all of that. Big games from Shaedon Sharpe and Caleb Love off the bench. Shaedon Sharpe's pretty clearly the Blazers' sixth man right now, and if Caleb Love does what he did tonight, the Blazers are going to be very, very, very good. In fact, I'll just say, I'll spoil a take for later in the show. If Caleb Love does what he did tonight, I don't think the Blazers will ever lose. We'll talk about that, and then yes, I'll feed the piggies. We'll talk a little bit about Giannis Antetokounmpo reportedly trying to figure out where he'll play next, because it doesn't sound like his Bucks future is particularly long, although it could be. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's an entire season. We'll get into the Giannis stuff. Feed the piggies to close the show. Let's get into this game, though. Blazers win 122-110. Second night of a back-to-back. Injury reports looking a little rough. It's the guys you know who have been out for a while, but also there's some names you don't want to see on there. Denny Avdija is questionable with an ankle. Donovan Clingan is questionable. Chris Murray was questionable with a hip contusion. Murray did not play, but Denny Avdija played and is back in the starting lineup. Donovan Clingan played and is in the starting lineup. So they're not as shorthanded, but it looked like it was going to be a little bit dicey. International travel, overnights from, you play a late game. It wasn't that. It was 7:30 Toronto time. So like, you get out late from Toronto, you fly to Cleveland. It's the NBA, right? It's just you're going to get into a city at 3 a.m. You're going to sleep until you got to be at the arena at 3, 4 in the afternoon and go to work. I guess some guys don't even show up probably till about 4:30, but you know the deal. It is what it is. These are tough ones, and the Blazers came out and they immediately showed what was going to be a hallmark of this game was balanced scoring. They lead 36-33 after one. In the first quarter, 6 dudes scored at least 5 points. 6 players scored at least 5 points. All of them, except for Denny Avdija, had made at least 2 shots. The Blazers had balance right away, and that was going to be the reason why they won this game. It's not because, Denny was very good, but it wasn't like he didn't have 40. They didn't need these monster games. They just got balance up and down the roster in ways that they just have not. And when they get enough offense like this from enough places, they're hard to deal with, as is any team, right? If you get this many guys scoring the way they did, but right away, 6 guys with at least 5 points in the first quarter. Okay, you've got the balance. Also for Cleveland, Darius Garland, 3 fouls in the first 7 minutes. He ended up getting a tech later on, picking up his 4th foul and complaining from the bench after getting his 4th foul. He just kind of got neutralized. He came back in and played with those 3 fouls in the second quarter, so it wasn't like he got benched, but it's just like but he did not. That was not Darius Garland's night, and it was not his night immediately. 3 fouls in the first 7 minutes. Blazers take a 10-point lead in the halftime. Caleb Love comes off the bench. He scores 10 in the first half. Shaedon Sharpe has 12 in the first half. Getting to his mid-range stuff, doing what he does. I thought, just sort of broadly speaking, I thought that that Sharpe was aggressive. like he was very like demonstrative in the way he played. I don't think he had this like hyper efficient first half. But I liked the process. He was like, yeah, I'm going to get to my spots. He took 10 twos in the first half. I thought he played with like, I need to be aggressive. And I need to be aggressive in ways that are my strengths. And I thought he played like I liked his process in ways that I have not always liked his process, even when he's had more efficient games than this. I like the way he played in the first half. And the Blazers blew the game open in the third quarter. They hit 6 threes. Jeremy Grant hits 2. Toumani Camara hits 2. Deni Avdija hits 2. And they push a 10-point lead to 14 heading into the third quarter. But also like they just never let the Cavs threaten. They led by as many as 18. They put, it's like they were in complete control in the third quarter in a way that, quite frankly, they have not been in a while. They have not had a game where they were just like straight up in control of the game the entire second half. And this game they were. They never relinquished the lead. They kept their foot on the gas and they kept making shots. Like that was the key to this game was really just like shot making. In fact, I feel like the key for the Cavs though was not making shots, shot missing. I thought the Cavs process was pretty good. They missed shots. They made a charge though. Like this game ended up being relatively close. They got as close as 5. But to me, the big sequence, or maybe the most telling one of sort of the whole Cavs experience, was Cleveland gets the ball down 8. They're pushing in sort of semi-transition off a missed shot, and Dean Wade gets the ball on the left wing, and Dean Wade's a good shooter. He's a good shooter in transition. He's certainly a really good catch-and-shoot player, and he just misses a very open, makeable look from the left wing. Just missed it. Would have cut the lead to 5. Blazers come down and kind of like run some offense, but Deni Avdija gets into the paint and dunks and pushes it to 10. And it would have been a 5-point game with 6 minutes left. Instead, it's a 10-point game with 5.5 minutes left. It's kind of the story of the night for Cleveland. But Cavs kept pushing. They got as close as 5. Evan Mobley hit a top of the key 3, but Denny scored a little bucket in the paint, and then the Cavs did force a miss and got a turnover, or after the bucket, look like they're going to get a turnover in the backcourt. But Donovan Mitchell kind of gets a steal from Toumani Camara and tries to save it, but he saves it back into the Blazers, who cycle the ball back around, and Deni Avdija ends up getting fouled. And so it looks like it's going to be this quick bad turnover in the backcourt for the Blazers. It turns into a bucket, and that from a 5-point game to a 9-point game after Denny's free throws with 1:40 left, and that's pretty much your ball game. Blazers can hold on from there, even with just under 2 minutes to go. Blazers win 122-110. That's your fastest recap in the West. Avdija, 27 points, lived at the free throw line, 16 of 17 from the free throw line. For a big chunk of the early part of this game, he had more free throws than the Cavs. Denny is good at drawing fouls. He understands the dark arts. Like he will get into your body, play physical, and just wait for you to reach, or wait for you to, try to go get the ball with those low pickups where he dribbles the ball low and just swipes it through James Harden style. He invites contact, and he does some dark arts wizardry foul drawing stuff that I think if he played for another team, many of you would send me emails whining about, and I'd say, shh, stop whining about the refs. And I feel the same way about Denny. It's a skill. He's good at it. Shh, stop whining about the refs. Literally never email me about it. I think he has really mastered some of the sort of unsavory parts of finding points, and he's become very, very, very good at it. And that plus how physical he plays, he's become very hard to guard. 27, 8 boards, 7 assists, ho hum, another just monster Denny game. Donovan Cleveland, I don't think played particularly well, but his presence was felt with 13 boards. I thought he was active, albeit a little bit inefficient on the glass. He was 2 of 8 from the floor, and a lot of his rebounds he was just kind of looking to kick out or getting caught some places. Toumani Camara, he remembered how to shoot. He's now made 14 threes in his last 3 games. He had 17. The story of this game, though, Shaedon Sharpe 20 off the bench, Caleb Love 20 off the bench. That's it. That's where the Blazers won this game. They took 15 more free throws. That was important for them, and there wasn't a bunch of intentional fouling at the end that drove that up. It was they had an advantage there. They're only in shooting possessions when you go with field goals and free throw attempts. Blazers only +6 in shooting possessions. The reason they won this game is because the Cavs shot 13 of 52 from three. That's 25%, and the Blazers shot 14 of 34. That's 41%. The Blazers shot very well, made threes. The Cavs did not do that. But the guys leading that charge and the difference really in success for the Blazers was 20 from Sharpe, 20 from Love. Let's talk about those two dudes and a guarantee, maybe a stupid one, about Caleb Love's performance. I will share with you in the second segment. Join me there, won't ya? First, though, I want to tell you about Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when the momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. And now you can actually take part in a live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play-by-play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Today's program is also brought to you by your local YMCA. That's right. The YMCA of Columbia-Willamette, where you can find your play at the YMCA Columbia-Willamette. They believe everyone deserves to find their play because play connects us, it strengthens us, and it brings our community together. That's what the Y believes. And they got 3 pillars: youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility. The Y is your local nonprofit, helping people of all ages move, grow, and belong across the Portland and Vancouver metro area. You're going to find 6 courts and a full fitness center at the Beaverton Family Y. You're going to find families swimming or playing pickleball at the Clark County or Sherwood YMCAs, plus family activities all year long, brand new workout equipment at all 3 branches, and so much more. Plus, with YMCA camps and childcare and the enrichment sites throughout the region, the Y gives kids safe, fun spaces to learn, play, and build your confidence. I am a child of YMCA camps. If you want your kid to grow up to be a moderately successful niche podcaster, the YMCA youth camps is absolutely the place to start. Or just find your play at the Y. Go have some fun. Visit ymcacw.org/pod. That's ymcacw.org/pod, or follow them on YouTube and Instagram at YMCACW. All right. So the Blazers win this game in large part because they're getting buckets off the bench. Shaedon Sharpe has 20. He also added 9 rebounds and 5 assists, a complete game. It turns out when your team shoots 41% from 3, there's a lot of assists to be had. Tumani had 4 assists. Jeremy Grant had 4 assists. Danny Avdia had 7 assists. Shaedon Sharpe had 5. When you're making 14 threes and you're driving and kicking and like getting real shots and like making shots, there are your assist numbers are going to go up because those shots go in. It's not literally just like every time down the floor. Like Denny, get an advantage, get into the paint, and kick out. And it's like, wow, how Denny have 16 assists? Is because like, well, no one else was creating shots and no one else was making shots. But I thought the Blazers, even just like once the ball started to go in, I thought they played the right way. They trusted the pass, and I think it's just so much easier to trust the pass when the ball goes in, right? It is even if you want to always trust it, it's human nature that when you see your teammates make shots, it's just going to be so much easier to just like quickly make the right read. You're not going to look someone off and take a decent 3. You're going to go good to great. And I thought the Blazers did a good job, particularly in those middle 2 quarters, the second and third quarters, of prioritizing good to great. I thought Denny kind of brought them home at the end of the game when he needed to, and that's like kind of what you want, right? You want your when the game's on the line, you kind of just want your star players to take over, and that's what they got from Denny. But they won this game because Shaedon Sharpe was balling and Caleb Love was balling. Real quick on Sharpe. He played 32 minutes tonight. The official box score has him at 32 minutes and 10 seconds. That is not a minutes restriction. I mentioned after the last game against Toronto that he was, pushing up towards 29 minutes played 28 and some change, 29 minutes. It's like, that's not a minutes restriction either. That's just minutes, right? Like if you see a guy play, a guy who's going to be a regular player play 22, 24 minutes, then that's like, because the Blazers are Thiago Splitter has sort of declined to explain that stuff. I don't believe there are independent reporters on the road right now with this team, so you're not getting that those types of sort of inquiries or reporting or whatever. It's just like it isn't the job of the team to be like, how many minutes? Like team reporters, like it's not Casey Holdall's job to be like, how many minutes exactly is Shaedon Sharpe allowed to play? It's a different dynamic. No one's fault. It's a different dynamic. It is so like. And Splitter is weird about that regardless. He's just not forthcoming with the media. It is what it is. That is not his preference, and so be it. But I think importantly, you got to use your logic here. Sharpe playing 28 minutes and then 32 minutes on back-to-back games. That is not someone on a minutes restriction anymore. He is cleared to play. They are letting him go. You play 32 minutes on the second night of a back-to-back. They are not nursing you back from injury, which that means is that they're comfortable with Shaedon Sharpe in the six-man role. That's where they want him to be. Now, when Drew Holiday gets back and they mix and match and some other things, I think that'll be telling. But I would not be surprised if Shaedon Sharpe stays in this six-man role and plays, somewhere between 29 and 32 minutes every night, which is about what he'd play normally, except off the bench. He's playing at the end of games, and they're leaning into him as in part of the closing lineup, and it's less tricky now with how sort of short they are in terms of like bench options. But he's like clearly they have. Usually you don't lose your starting spot due to injury, but clearly when Shaedon Sharpe got injured and missed 4 games, they kind of rearranged some things. And I think part of it is Sidi Sissoko in that starting group, typically with NBA coaches, is like players that are somewhat limited. It's easier to play those players with better players. Is sort of the Alan Crabb, Victor Claver special from Blazers teams of yore, where it's like, Noah Vonleh, it's like the best place to hide players that are maybe not as good is to play them with your best players, and then their ask is much smaller, so you might be able to get the best out of them. And I think the Blazers have gotten the best out of CD in terms of, some of his limitations show up pretty obviously, but he can pass. He made a pass today off the dribble, cross court to Jeremy Grant. That was a pretty nifty pass off the dribble. He defends with interest, and he's big. It's just easier to sort of duck him in there as opposed to playing a bench group that's like Sidi and Caleb Love and Chris Murray, and it's like, oh, this group is a mess. It allows kind of a way to hide a bench player with the starters, and it also splits up Denny and Shaedon Sharpe's minutes a little bit, so they're not completely overlapping. Although at the end of the game they have to play together. In the future they have to play together. It's just it's the nature of the biz that at some point like those two dudes like figuring out how to maximize the way they interact with one another, which has not been particularly pretty this season, will eventually get there. They'll have to get there if they're going to be successful. But Sharpe is in the 6-man role, hooping. It fits him, right? Because he can be, when he comes in off the bench, it's like you're in there to do the thing, right? Go score, be aggressive, get shots up. That's what he wants to do anyways. I think there was like this pervasive myth that has gone away a little bit, was around last year about how Sharpe was like not aggressive on offense. That was really not his problem. It was more like he didn't play with a motor in all of the other like hustle categories, which still shows up from time to time, but like he shot a lot last year, y'all. And he shot a lot this year too, even more. But like when he plays at this level, and like this is a great game off the bench. 20 points, 9 boards, 5 assists is a great game off the bench. They're really special. That gives them balance. Which brings me to Caleb Love. Caleb Love hit 4 3-pointers tonight. He finished with 20 points, 5 rebounds on 7 of 15 shooting, including 4 of 7 from 3. Balanced game. 10 in the first half, 10 in the second half. Made shots. Maybe had one that was like a real Caleb Love, like, whew, that's a shot. But like for the most part, played within the offense, understood the job. They had him off the ball so much. They got him off the ball so much. Even when he was playing with like no other guards, sometimes they would have Tumani bring the ball up to initiate. Just like, Caleb, you are a combo guard. You stay in score mode, young man, because that's what you do. And he played really well. And here's my hot take. Here's my hot take. Like, if you're a long-time listener to the podcast, you know how I feel about Caleb Love. I just do not think he's consistent enough to be a reliable NBA player. He's hot when he's hot. He's cold when he's cold. And there's more stretches when he's cold. And he kind of plays the same way regardless of hot or cold. Like, he's just, consistency has been his thing, and he's been a high volume, inefficient player for his entire collegiate career. He's been so thus far in the NBA. But the two nights that he hasn't been that, when he hits 6 threes against the Warriors and when he hits 4 threes against the Cavs, the Blazers can just beat anyone because all of a sudden they have a dude off the bench who aces threes. And here's my bold prediction for Caleb Love. The Blazers will never lose a game in which Caleb Love makes 4 3-pointers off the bench. There's a chance he starts some random games and makes 4 threes and like they don't win. But this is my stone cold, extremely stupid guarantee that I'm sure to regret saying out loud on Thursday, December 4th podcast. But whatever, let's go. The Blazers will never lose a game in which Caleb Love comes off the bench and makes 4 3-pointers. They'll never lose a game when he does that. They're 2-0 lifetime. They're going to be whatever and on to infinity, because they will never lose a game when Caleb Love comes off the bench and makes shots, because that is a game changer for him, right? Their offense has kind of been fine. Their problem is defense right now, for the most part in the season. Tonight, their offense carried them. They were just so good that the Cavs couldn't get close enough to matter, and I thought the Cavs got a ton of good looks and missed them. DeAndre Hunter 0 for 3 from 3. Donovan Mitchell goes 3 of 13. Darius Garland 1 of 8 from 3. Lonzo Ball comes in and goes 1 of 8 from 3. The big guys, Thomas Bryant and Evan Mobley, made threes, but like nobody else did. They shoot 25% from 3. And again, I thought they got really good looks, and they had a handful that were like the guy you want, the shot you want, cuts the lead to single digits, puts a little pressure on the Blazers, and they just missed him. Jalen Tyson missed one in the early in the fourth quarter. Dean Wade missed the one that I highlighted in the middle of the fourth quarter. Like, whatever, don't give them back. They missed him. Blazers made them. You win the game. Sharpe settling into the 6-man role. Caleb Love showing up when they need him to get this rock solid win. This is just straight up good win on the road. Second night of a back-to-back against a good playoff level teams. Good win. I would say one of the Blazers' best wins of the year, all things considered. Hey, keep it moving. Back to Detroit on Friday. Let's head back as they slowly make their way to Detroit and Memphis, and then back home for a little bit, and then to New Orleans for the never-ending 5-game road trip. That's actually 4 games, and then they're going to come back for a little bit and then go back on the road again. Fine, I'll talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo. Fine. Join me in the third segment. We'll talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo. You know he's going to get traded or whatever. Dream your dreams, and we'll talk about it in the third segment. Before I squash those dreams, let me tell you about Game Time. If you want to see Giannis Antetokounmpo play in the Moda Center, well, you're going to need to get yourself tickets using Game Time. The Game Time app is clutch. It gives fans an advantage when it comes to snagging seats to the games you want to go to. That includes not just Giannis Antetokounmpo's Portland debut coming here in a few months, but also the World Cup coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, 48 teams. And Game Time's going to make it easier for you to get World Cup tickets, a realistic chance instead of impossible. You're going to pull up the app. The layout makes it so simple. Scroll through the matchups, compare seat views, see all of the venues that you want to go to. What you see is what you get pricing. So when you're scrolling, you know exactly what you're going to pay. Pick a game, tap a section, and have your tickets locked in within minutes. No confusion, no hunting for fine print. Just you buying the tickets to the games you want to go to a world-class footy. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets, including to the World Cup. Every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA. You get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You're still listening to Locked On Blazers. Giannis Antetokounmpo will be a I'm just kidding. Here's the news of the day. Listen, I'm not against trade rumors. I think they're fun. I think the Giannis stuff is fun. I think everyone else on the network is probably leading with Giannis Antetokounmpo because trades, right? Just kidding. Was that an impression of all my colleagues at the Locked On Podcast Network? I apologize, colleagues. That's not what you sound like. You sound like this. No. Giannis Antetokounmpo is reported today first by Shams Charania of ESPN is going to speak with his agent and the Milwaukee Bucks about potentially finding what his future might be with the Bucks, and if there can be and like the fine print there. And Charania is like really terrible at actually explaining what he's ever meant and anything he's ever reported. But like the fine print there is that Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to eventually be traded from the Bucks, and they're going to start looking into it now. Seems clear. The more clear-headed reporting on this came from Charania's colleague at ESPN, Brian Windhorst, who spoke today on NBA Today. He's also said this earlier on ESPN radio affiliate in Cleveland a couple days ago, or maybe a couple weeks ago. But he reiterated some reporting and added a little more context on NBA Today on Wednesday's program. That's ESPN's like afternoon NBA show. What Windhorst explained in a much clearer, non-copy and pasted from the sources who want you to say it a certain way type of reporting, and I'm being a little bit critical here, but you all, I feel how I feel about the state of breaking news reporting in the NBA. But Windhorst reported just sort of in more plainer language is that the Bucks will work with Giannis to find a trade to a destination he prefers, but once they sort of talk with him about what he prefers, and that's what will be the conversations with his agent, is then they'll find a trade package with that team. And what Windhorst said was that this summer, while it was reported that like Giannis Antetokounmpo was like the Knicks and the Bucks were kind of having conversations, is that Giannis was like, trade me to the Knicks. He had already requested a trade specifically to the Knicks. They spent 3 to 4 days discussing, trying to figure out a deal with New York that would work. It didn't work. Giannis said, cool, I'll report to camp. Let's go. Let's play. But he already requested a trade once. They just couldn't find it. It's more about, seems like it's from Windhorst's reporting, seems like it's about destination. Giannis is going to get traded where he wants to go. But the Bucks are doing the right thing, the way that it happens when you trade an all-star, is say like, hey, we'll accommodate you. We're not going to send you to hell, but we need to get a return that makes sense for our team. That's where the Trailblazers come in. What makes sense for the Milwaukee Bucks? Well, the Bucks, because they have mortgaged their future a cajillion times in order to chase glory with Giannis Antetokounmpo, and quite frankly, I applaud the Bucks for how consistently aggressive they've been. They basically traded everything they had for Drew Holiday and won a championship. Then when that sort of iteration of the Bucks needed to be refreshed, they traded everything they had and Drew Holiday again to acquire Damian Lillard. And then after that, he even waived Damian Lillard, took on a bunch of future dead cap money and like signed Miles Turner because they needed another spacey big man to work with Giannis. But that means that the Bucks do not control any of their future picks moving forward. And those picks are controlled by teams that they have previously traded with and then where those picks have been dealt since. The Blazers control the Bucks picks, have right to swap picks with the Bucks in 2028 and 2030, which means not that the Blazers outright have the Bucks pick. It just means that if the Bucks pick is, say, 11 and the Blazers are picking 17, Portland can exercise that right to swap. Hey, we get 11, y'all get 17. Same in 28, same in 30. The Blazers have some modicum of control of the Bucks 2029 pick that they once owned outright, but they have since sent to Washington as part of the Deni Avdija trade. Pretty good trade, as it turns out. Not loved here on this podcast, but in hindsight, boy, was I wrong. Deni Avdija, a star. But because the Blazers have 3 picks in 2029, they've promised the middle of those 3 picks to Washington, so that conceivably could be the Bucks pick. So they don't have outright control of it, but they have some control over that pick. But the problem is that 2028 is 2 drafts away. There's still picks in 2026 and 2027. So if the Bucks were to trade Giannis and want to bottom out, they don't have much incentive to trade with the Blazers to get back their picks into the future necessarily. Their sort of immediate incentive would be to get back those picks in 26 and 27, which are mostly controlled by the Atlanta Hawks, although the Pelicans have some say in the 2027 pick. They have a swap situation going. It's Milwaukee's pick, but New Orleans and Atlanta have a swap agreement with it. The NBA is very confusing. So the Blazers, I don't think realistically are destination for Giannis. It's just like based on the Windhorst reporting, Giannis is going to choose his destination. Is Giannis going to say, "Hi, I would like to try it again with Damian Lillard, only this time he'll be older and coming off an Achilles injury"? Like, they were a fine pairing together, but they were not championship level good. I don't think they ever seemed like they were homies, and I don't think it ever fit smoothly in the games I watched. Were they both good? Yes. Was the offense good? Yes. Were they injured in the playoffs, and that was kind of the never really got a test of it? Absolutely. But they also just like they weren't dominant as a duo. I can't imagine Giannis signs up for it. I can't imagine that he signs up to play on like a decent rising team in the West as opposed to like a team that seems much closer to championship contention should he ask out. I can't imagine that he moves west, further away from his home in Greece, although he certainly could because you're in America for a long time during the NBA season, and it ain't that hard to fly home if you're on a private jet. It's just a little bit, add 5 hours to the trip if you start in Portland as opposed to Milwaukee. So I just, and moreover, I don't think the Blazers can put together a trade that would allow them to both acquire Giannis and not sort of gut their depth and their chance to be competitive. Like if you're the Bucks, you ask for Denny, right? And if you're the Blazers, you say absolutely not. How about some combination of Shaedon Sharpe and Scoot Henderson and Jeremy Grant's contracts, if not all three? But even trading all of those, like, yeah, you're a fun team, but like championship level good plus, you kind of, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So how the Blazers were to, if they were to get involved, is as a facilitator. Like I said, Atlanta has the sort of like, has some stuff that they could do to get to acquire Giannis if he so chooses to be a Buck. I would immediately ask for Jalen Johnson. That'd be my number one ask if I'm Milwaukee. I will take the guy who's sort of similar to Giannis and a bunch of draft picks. But they have Trae Young's contract if that interests the Bucks, but it'd be surprising if that was part of it. Maybe it'd be part of it, but there'd be more to it. But Atlanta has the swap rights with they get the better of either the Pelicans or the Bucks picks in 2026. So if the Bucks are to make a deal, getting Atlanta involved and getting back control of their 2026 pick and then outright tanking so they can have full control over their destiny in terms of lottery odds. Obviously, the lottery does not let you have much control of your destiny because it's literally a lottery, but that would be the path for them, right? The Bucks would want to trade with Atlanta. In 2027, New Orleans and Atlanta have a swap that is the Bucks pick. New Orleans gets the better of either their own pick, that's the New Orleans would keep their own pick, or the Bucks pick. And whichever pick is worse that the Pelicans don't keep, that one goes to Atlanta. So in some ways, Atlanta has control of Milwaukee's next two drafts. They're much more likely to be involved in an immediate trade than the Blazers. But the Blazers could be a facilitator. If the Bucks want to get back their future picks in 28 and 30, certainly like in a larger deal, could the Blazers send out picks and money to make it work to absorb Mikal Bridges or something like that from the Knicks? Yeah, I think there's a world in which that happens. Absolutely. But that's the way they're going to be involved. They're not going to get Giannis. They're going to be a facilitator. And I think because this happened a little bit earlier than would be ideal for the Blazers, their picks are actually somehow, in terms of the Bucks' immediate needs, less valuable because the Bucks getting control of 26 and 27 if they trade Giannis is more important than 28 and 30, but certainly having control of your future picks, period, if you're going to be bad, matters, albeit 30 is far enough down the line that you might say, you know what? Maybe we'll be back. maybe we'll be back. That's your Giannis slop. I think it's like the part of basketball I like is basketball. I'm much more excited about Caleb Love making shots and Shaedon Sharpe settling into a six-man role than I am about a Giannis trade, and that is a me problem. So I love y'all. Thanks for rocking with me in the Giannis trades section. I find the mechanisms of making these trades interesting. What would motivate the Bucks? What would motivate Atlanta? Et cetera, more so than like the actual like cook me up a fake trade nonsense. But I like the mechanisms of how to build a team and the decisions you make and the like really poor decisions New Orleans made when they would have all of this leverage over Milwaukee if they just not traded for Derek Queen, who looks like a good player, but if they had just not traded that unprotected pick, like a double unprotected pick, then with a swap with Bucks, like they would be in the driver's seat for the biggest trade part that's going to hit the market this year. And that is more interesting to me than the trades themselves. That's going to do it for today's show. Tomorrow's show, come back. Joe Freeman of The Oregonian is going to join the program. Your boy, Handsome Joe. So do not miss that one. And then come back for 5 shows next week is what we do 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. Tell your friends about the show. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.